Hello and welcome back to episode 10, guys. So I can't believe we even made it here, but this is actually going to be the last episode of season 1. But don't worry, we'll talk about season 2 at the end of this episode and fill you all in. And we are so excited to have you here today because we are introducing a new segment at the end with our mother, which I know you've all been excited to hear about, Jerry. And this episode, we're going to talk about some updates surrounding abortion laws and medications. And we're also going to do some of our shout outs of the Q&As we received last week, which if you do follow us on Instagram at Psychotic PY Podcast, you saw that we did have to skip a week, but we did a Q&A session so we can keep you all engaged and still chat with you. So we are back this week. Bridget, she's the reason, as usual, that middle child, why we couldn't film. So go ahead, Bridget.
Okay, yeah, I'm really sorry. So we didn't have an episode last week and it's completely my fault. So let's just jump right in. First of all, quick bump date. So when this episode airs, I will be 27 weeks. So getting close to that third trimester. It's becoming a bit more real now. I'm feeling lots of baby's movements and the bump is really growing. My registry is hopefully complete. But if anyone recommends any baby must-have products, please let me know. I will not be offended at all. I'm open to all suggestions and I appreciate input from everybody. So drop your top baby recs in the comments on YouTube, pretty please. I also want to mention we have decided to use Mama's doulas in New Jersey to help baby out. So far, they've been so supportive and reach out all the time to check in. I do personally know 3 women who have used them just in the past year or two, and they cannot recommend them enough. So if anyone in New Jersey is looking for a doula, please reach out to them. Mama's doulas, so OM and then MAMAS doulas, DOULAS. They are amazing. Next, I'd like to address why we were unable to air an episode last week. So I was actually really unwell with viral gastroenteritis. Hopefully viral. I never had a fever or anything, so I don't think it was bacterial, but it was the most severe abdominal pain I'd ever had in my life. And basically my bowel was spasming and it was causing an irritable uterus. So basically, when you're pregnant, your uterus is big and it touches your bowel and your bladder. So if you have a spastic bowel because you're sick, or you have a really bad urinary tract infection, a really bad UTI, that can irritate your uterus, your womb, and actually make it have Braxton Hicks contractions. But at that time, I was only 25 weeks and I was it's way too soon for Braxton Hicks. I was getting really nervous. My belly would get really firm. I knew it was my uterus tightening. So I went to the doctor to get checked out just to be 100%, make sure I wasn't going into preterm labor or anything like that. So we went in, we heard baby's heartbeat. We did a fibronectin swab. That was negative, so everything was okay. So fibronectin is basically a protein that you will secrete from your cervix if you are going into labor. So it's a test they can do to rule out preterm labor. It takes 5 minutes to run the swab, and you have an answer right then and there. So everything was okay. But it was 5 days laid up on the couch, slowly sipping liquids. Literally couldn't have solids for 3 whole days. No solid was going in. But I'm happy to be... I'm happy to be back with you guys. I'm so much better now. I'm back to being a normal person now. I'm going to the bathroom as normal. I'm eating real food. So I do apologize. I am completely the reason we did not record last week, but all good. So we're moving on. Onwards and upwards.
She's so dramatic, guys. Jesus. I'm just kidding. We love her. I'm glad you're okay.
Thank you.
In all jokes aside, Bridget, when we were growing up, my mom got her a pillow for her bed that said drama queen, and it's probably still there, to be honest.
It definitely is still in my childhood bedroom. I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It says Little Miss Drama.
Little Miss Drama? Yeah, that was Bridget in high school for sure. Definitely Bridget. She's matured, okay. Guys. She's a new person.
Yeah, I'm slightly more mature now.
All right, so let's get into the not so fun part of this segment. On May 24th, Reuters reported that Louisiana signed a bill classifying abortion-inducing medications as controlled substances. Boo! Controlled substances are a classification of drugs usually reserved for drugs prone to abuse or addictions. That label obviously does not correctly apply here at all. And let's not forget that these abortion-inducing medications are medications like misoprostol and mifepristone. Bridget, you can correct me if that's wrong.
Nailed it.
Thanks. That we use to treat miscarriages or retain products following a miscarriage. So these medications are usually safely and appropriately prescribed by your gynecologist. They are not found on the streets or abused. And this bill was signed by Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry only one day after state legislature sent it to his desk, which is almost unheard of. According to Reuters, the new law designates these two lovely words that drive me crazy. Mifepristone and misoprostol, which the FDA approved more than 2 decades ago as safe and effective for terminating pregnancies as Schedule 4 drugs, typically painkillers and mood altering medications that merit greater oversight due to their potential for abuse or dependence. This new classification puts Louisiana residents at serious risk in the state with a near total ban on terminations already. Patients who require these medications for miscarriage treatment or terminations will be afraid to acquire these, and doctors will definitely be more nervous to prescribe them, thus seriously limiting access to healthcare for women, which is crazy. So from now on, doctors are going to actually require a special license to prescribe these medications. So, cue the scramble to obtain this license quickly, and the mayhem is definitely going to ensue. The prescriptions have to be entered into a state database that law enforcement can access without a warrant. Women are losing the right to privacy and right to health care in one fell swoop. This bill will also make possession of these medications without the new form of a prescription, according to a controlled substance guidelines, a crime punishable by 1 to 5 years in prison and fines up to $5,000. And any person who helps a pregnant person obtain these drugs could be prosecuted. This, I mean, honestly, this is crazy at the end with that it's going to be punishable up to 1 to 5 years in prison, because I'm pretty sure our justice system has cases in the past where they were actually lighter on rapists. So this is insane.
I completely like the thing that is really shocking, I think, is that you have to be in a state database that the like you said you can access without a warrant. Like that takes away your privacy and your healthcare, and that is like one of the like prime tenets of seeking
Mm-hmm.
healthcare is that should be like a private matter and you have a right to privacy and confidentiality. It's so inappropriate that you may have required these medications for maybe like a miscarriage, and then someone can just bring up your health information and be like, oh, she had a termination, she had an abortion. It's like you don't even know the story, you just know that I had to take these medications.
I know. I mean, I guess HIPAA goes out the window, right? Screw HIPAA. Everybody, it's saying right here, the police can go in at any time. It doesn't matter. I think that's
Yeah, I think
crazy.
it's very inappropriate and it's a complete government overreach, in my opinion. I don't think anyone should have access to your confidential information like that, especially
Mhm.
pertaining to women's health.
Mhm.
And it's dangerous. It puts women's lives in danger because some people do this secretly because they need to protect their relationships, protect their own lives. And if someone can just find you in a database, I don't know. I think this is spells trouble, honestly.
I'm also shocked that they can even put them in the Schedule 4 drugs, which are typically the painkillers and mood altering medications. I don't see how they are of the same merit. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you don't use misoprostol recreationally. Like it causes pain and bleeding. Like that's
Mhm.
not a fun drug to take.
Come on, Bridget. Let's go have fun this weekend. Let's bleed a bit.
Yeah. Let's bleed from our vaginas for 24 hours. Woohoo!
Blood sisters for life.
It blows my mind when they pass these almost like loophole type laws. So it makes it that doctors are
Mhm.
terrified to prescribe safe medications, but patients
Mhm.
also don't want to have it on them. They don't want to be caught with them. So it just completely makes the chance of a termination null and void in Louisiana, basically.
I know I've said it in probably the earlier episode of with the abortion ban, but I'll say it again. I think it's crazy that they are making these laws or passing these laws, right? Without actually doing research. It seems like they're not doing research. It's really insulting because obviously you're a doctor and you're looking at this like, are you serious? Like, did, how can this be real, right? So I feel like they should have probably consulted a doctor or a professional, but no, instead they're just passing these laws that maybe make other people happy, and maybe they're trying to win an election in that state, or who knows? Maybe someone has their hands in their pocket, who knows? But it just seems like the reason isn't a good one, and it makes no sense. It's definitely not for the health of the woman or the baby.
I actually read, so one of the like state congressmen or state senators is actually, the law is named after his sister. And so they are acting purely on emotions, no logic, no research behind it. Basically, his sister was in a bad marriage, and the husband found out she was pregnant, didn't want the child, so he snuck misoprostol tablets into her drink, and she took them and had like quite a traumatic miscarriage at home, because that's what it does. These tablets make you
Mhm.
bleed quite significantly. And so, acting completely based on that anecdote and on emotions, they're passing this law.
That's that's actually insane. It's funny because I feel like when you're in high school and college, like those projects you have to do, whether that's like yourself or in a group, you have to, the only way you're getting a good grade besides following the guidelines are coming with facts, right? You have to always cite your sources. Usually those could be 2 to 3 pages long in your bibliography. But yet, did that really prepare us for real life? Because in this career, you could just, do anything without any evidence. It doesn't matter. It's just could be however you feel. You could do whatever you want.
Exactly. Because let me tell you, as someone who prescribes misoprostol a lot, the cases similar to this man's sister are so rare. I have literally only heard his story and one other on the news that were similar. So, two in my many years, not as a doctor, because I haven't been a doctor that long, but in my many years on earth,
Mhm.
I've only heard two stories like that. It's so uncommon. So, to change an entire state's law based on the experiences of one family, albeit horrible experience, completely tragic, never should have happened. But to change a state law based on that is not appropriate.
That's crazy. I don't know. He's giving me vibes of I was in this group project, but I just put my name on it. I didn't do any work.
Oh yeah, completely. Here's a story from my life. Let's just tack that up there.
Oh my goodness. So obviously, since you definitely have background in this, like you said, and as a now pregnant woman, this I'm sure makes your blood boil. It's just insane.
It really does because pregnancy is like jumping off a cliff. Like
Mhm.
you don't know what's going to happen. And a lot of women, a lot of couples want to be pregnant and to then say, "Oh, I've had a miscarriage, but I'm actually like afraid to treat your miscarriage because I don't want to prescribe this medication. It might come back on me and my medical license," is ludicrous and just not safe. And we're not having the woman's best interest in mind if we're
No,
acting defensively and we're doing defensive medicine to cover our own asses.
I agree. Also, just because you ban something doesn't mean people aren't going to try to do an illegal wraparound, right? Like before abortions were even legal, before unfortunately we undid that, people were finding back alleys. They're finding their own ways. People find ways, right? So all you're doing is making it unsafer because they're going to find ways. It's just not going to be safe.
And now misoprostol and mifepristone will become street drugs because you're going to have to get it from a drug dealer secretly.
See, we can have fun and bleed on the weekends, Bridget. Let's do it. I'm just kidding.
It's mayhem. They're completely undoing years of progress in accessible healthcare. Miscarriage treatment, termination treatment has been safe for so long, and we're going to go right back to the 50s and 60s when it was not safe at all.
Mhm. My question again, since for those who just joined now and have not been with us all season, my sister now lives in Manchester, England. What do they say over there? Have they heard this news? What do they feel? Do they feel America is literally out of their mind? Let me know.
So no one has mentioned this specifically. Today was actually my first day back at work, so uh, I haven't like asked anyone. But when Roe was overturned, people in England honestly were losing their minds. They were like, "Why would you?" Ever take away a woman's right to healthcare, and I was like, yup. Like they couldn't even comprehend it, and they were like, why was that even like in someone's head to do that? And I was like, I didn't think it was, but clearly it's in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, clear. I mean, I was very surprised too. I think when it was all happening, I really didn't think that they were going to get their way. I didn't think that they were the majority, but I guess I was sorely wrong, which is upsetting.
I know that's what this has taught me, like this past year of news is that like you think, because we come from like, I'm going to say normal, I don't really know what that means, but like normal enough family, like we have educated friends, like our friends would never think this way, and then so you assume everyone's like that, everyone is
Mhm.
reasonable enough to understand other people's perspective and have empathy and say, you know what, I might not do that, but I understand why someone else might need to do that. But it turns out, no, we're completely wrong. People do not know what the frick empathy is. No one can imagine walking a mile in someone else's shoes these days.
You're right. Clearly, or we would have done this.
Yeah, it's just mayhem. Like, put yourself in someone else's shoes, really, and think like, what would this scared woman do if she needed these medications? Nope, doesn't matter. But that's really like that's a kind of a male thing. Men seem to lack a lot of empathy and they can never really like imagine themselves in a different place in life, whereas I
Hmm.
think women tend to be able to do that a little easier.
I agree. I agree with you there. From what I've seen in my own practice, so that's it. It is. It's mind boggling. But I'm scared for what's coming next. It just seems like they do something, they pass something, and then they let people breathe a bit. And then something comes. Something else gets passed or put on the docket, and it's like, what are they going after next?
Yeah, that's such a good point. Actually, it just kind of feels like dominoes falling and they're slowly like little by little taking away our rights, taking away our freedom, taking away your peace of mind, just knowing those options are out there. um and that's kind of how you like stifle an entire population, basically, is you just slowly strip away little by little, and eventually you don't even notice all your rights are gone and you're like, how the fuck did we get here?
I mean, I know this is an extreme, and I'm sorry if this is insensitive, but the parallels are kind of like, didn't Hitler do that with the Jews? It was very slow. And then all of a sudden it was, oh my God, how did we get here?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And I get like, yeah, that is like an extreme example, but that is how you trick an entire population of people, is just by slowly whittling away at their rights and their freedoms. And at first you're like, okay, it's just that, whatever, it doesn't affect me. Okay,
Right.
it's just that. Well, that doesn't affect me either. But eventually it will affect every one of us. We're going to all be affected because we're all in this together, and you don't know what position you're going to be in life in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And when you need these treatments and you can't access them, we're all screwed.
Hmm. Also, people, like you did mention earlier with empathy and putting people in other people's shoes, like you said, people tend to think, oh, well, it doesn't affect me. But what happens when it does, or it affects your daughter or someone you love?
Mhm.
Again, you don't ever think it's going to be you or someone close to you, but then it is, and at that time it's too late.
And I don't even need to like imagine that it's going to be me, which is why I'm always like, why do people have to feel like that? Like, I know other women. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Like,
mhm.
so it's like it doesn't even have to be me. It could be literally anyone I know, and I'm already like, on their side.
Mhm,
So why is it that it's like sometimes men have to like have a sister or their mom go through it before they can finally identify it? Like, I don't understand. You don't have a mom, you don't have a sister like
mhm.
who didn't go through these things, but like just because she exists in this world, don't you want her to have every option available to her?
Well, for me, it makes me think of, and maybe this is an example of why they can't. But do you know how they always say, like, a dad doesn't become a dad till the birth, but the mom becomes one at conception or like the first
Mm,
ultrasound?
yeah.
So it is true. Even on like trends on TikTok and social media, you'll see like they'll announce they're pregnant, and the girl is jumping up with excitement, crying at these reveals, and the dad's just like, okay, like I'm excited, but like it's not here yet. But then literally then they'll pan over to the future where they're holding their son or daughter, and they're just bawling, and it's like the bond has been formed, and I'm feeling like unless they're really directly involved or can feel it, it's like they don't connect, they're completely disconnected.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, they kind of have to be like put into it directly before they can
Mhm,
form that connection.
mhm.
Whereas, yeah, it seems like a lot of women are just a bit able to perceive it without that physical connection. Like, I can imagine a world with this, that, and the other. Whereas men, not all men, obviously, but like average man, I would say, unless they're thrust into that situation, they're like they can't like imagine how they would react. And you also will find that if you say like, hey babe, like, honestly guys, just like test this in your relationship. If you're just like, oh hey babe, like, what if this happens, men will always be like, yeah, but that didn't happen. So like, why would I think about it? And you're like, well, but it could happen. That, like you can't let your brain like kind of imagine a scenario where I would need an answer from you. Like if it's not happening now, they're just kind of like, well, it's not happening. So why would I even think about that?
Hmm. Which is funny because so what they're kind of doing, even though it's not always good or helpful, is what we practice. I practice at least with women in staying mindfulness, right? Staying in the present, only worry about what's happening to you now at this moment. Because women do, we tend to get in our heads and make up scenarios that hurt us that honestly may never even happen. They could be like worst case scenario that we're worrying about for no reason, right? So we try to practice mindfulness in sessions and how they went, and I feel like men just, I guess, are born with that ability because they just be going through life, they like they don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I'm not like an anxious person. I truly do not like overthink or anything. But sometimes you're just like, oh, like what if this happens? Like we need to think about,
Mhm.
like how we would react as a couple. And yeah, Ted will be like, well, it hasn't happened. I'm like, yeah, but
Right.
we need
Yeah, no,
like,
I get it.
you know.
No, John will call me out sometimes I really will, I'll hurt my own feelings, and John's like, that's what you get, like what are you doing to yourself? Like I remember when Jack was born, like I was, scrolling TikTok as one should not. And like you see these videos of like 10-year-olds committing suicide, 10-year-old boys because they were bullied. So I would go hurt my feelings, cry to John, and he's like, our kid is a newborn shitting himself. Like, could you calm down? Like, if that happens, we'll deal with
Oh,
it at the time.
oh my God. Yeah, you should not look at videos like that. That's horrific.
Yeah,
That's so sad.
I know. Well, I can't control the feed, okay? The feed knows me, Bridget.
Yeah, I know. Clearly the feed knows what you want.
Made me
Oh.
emotional.
Hmm.
So, I probably should have given a disclaimer before saying that. I'm sorry, disclaimer, sensitive topic.
Hmm.
But yeah, so this is sad that it was passed, and I really do feel bad for all the females in Louisiana. My hearts go out to you, and I hope that this somehow gets overturned because this is crazy.
Yeah, I hope everyone stays safe and seeks healthcare appropriately regardless. And I hope
Mhm.
doctors exercise their rights and prescribe when appropriate and don't let something like this stop you.
I agree. So, with that, we want to do our Q&A session, which we did mention on our Instagram last week when we had to skip a week due to our drama queen. Just kidding. So we did get a few write-ins, and we're going to mention them. Obviously, majority of them are anonymous except one, which we know won't mind. But we are going to keep these anonymous, and we'll just tell you what they said and what we answered back with. I'll let Bridget take it from here with the first one.
Yeah, okay. So we had a question on Instagram. Anonymous, someone is 8 weeks pregnant with triplets. It's very exciting. And it was
Yay.
weighing the benefits and the risks of reduction. So it was a doctor recommended reduction. So I basically just gave my opinion and what I know. So when you are pregnant, spontaneous or IVF with higher order babies, so two or more, especially with three, we do recommend a reduction just because higher order pregnancies can be incredibly dangerous for mom and babies. So, some of the main risks are spontaneous miscarriage. Actually, a lot of higher order pregnancies do not carry to term, and you might end up with only one anyway. Other risks are fetal growth restrictions. Babies are not getting fed properly through the placenta, or there isn't enough room simply, so babies do not grow appropriately. There's also something called twin transfusion syndrome. You can get it in twins, triplets, etc., where essentially one twin will be bigger and have polyhydramnios, so more fluid around them and big because they're taking all the nutrients from the second twin, which will have growth restriction and oligohydramnios, so too little fluid around baby, and that puts them at a risk of FDIU, so a fetal demise in utero. So you really need to look out for the signs of that on ultrasound. You will be followed up, obviously, because once you have a higher order pregnancy, you are automatically placed in like a higher risk category. So that is really dangerous as well. And the next major concern is severe prematurity. So if you have twins or triplets, you'll probably be booked for an elective C-section. before 37 weeks anyway. So, right off the bat, your twin or triplet pregnancy is by definition preterm. However, severe preterm, we need to look out for because that is when we're at risk of brain damage and NICU admissions. And unfortunately, it does happen. Way higher rates for higher order pregnancies than singleton. So, it's not unusual for your doctor to say, hey, listen, there's three, let's reduce it to twins. And see what happens. So that is basically why we do it. But the risks of a reduction would be spontaneous miscarriage, unfortunately. So what you do with a reduction is you inject KCL or digoxin into one of the fetuses to stop the heartbeat. And you follow it up on you're using an ultrasound the whole time, and then you confirm death with ultrasound as well. After. But unfortunately, there are chances of spontaneous miscarriage of any embryo, any fetus in there. So that would be absolutely heartbreaking. Obviously, if you take your doctor's advice, you have twins or triplets, you go for a reduction and you end up with a complete miscarriage and not pregnant at all anymore. So that is a risk. And it's, I think it's about 6.8% risk of spontaneous miscarriage. So under 7%, when you do a reduction. So it's just something to keep in mind. So that was one of the Q's and A's we had. And we answered this person on Instagram. And now we just wanted to mention it on here. So yeah.
Awesome. Next, we had the one which I'm sure won't mind, Crosta. We love you, Crosta. She wrote, I wish I had a question, but I don't. I just love you guys with a heart. So obviously we're shouting you out because we love you too.
Yes. Shout out to Natalie Crosta. Love you, girl. And cannot wait to boogie with you in the fall. Yes.
Boogie. What age are we, Bridget?
The age where we boogie because till you can't boogie no more. Ooh, boogie.
She's just, I feel like you're getting into character because her August baby shower has that simple theme. I'm not going to say anymore because it's a surprise, but it's on brand for her character development here.
But we boogieing.
All right. So the next one, anonymous. What to do when you're in your 20s trying to figure out what to do with life? So I'll just say from a generic perspective plus my own, your 20s are really for trying to figure things out. Who are you? What do you want to do with your life? Trying something and realizing that's not for you. You might have thought it was and it's not. And that's totally okay. I think it's a very normal experience to feel like this in your 20s, not only because I've experienced it, but because I have clients in my own practice that say this when they're in that demographic and age range. So I think it's normal. I don't think it's anything to shy from. What I would do is encourage that you seek things out that you have interests in and passions for. Try them out. See if you really do want to go through with it. Learn who you are as an individual before, entering a partnership for life. Because it's really important that you know who you are and have your own successes before joining somebody, and creating successes together as a couple. I don't know if Bridget has any of her own experiences to add to that, but that would be what I would suggest.
Yes, I agree. Your 20s are all about personal growth, and it might be the last time in your life you can truly be selfish if you don't already have children or anything. If you're not tied down in your 20s, you should take your education seriously if that's what you're pursuing, your career. This is your time to put yourself first and put yourself out there. Find what actually makes you happy and what you're passionate about, and move around if you need to. Do whatever you have to do to look out for you because you're your number one. Because once you are tied down, maybe later on in life, maybe your late 20s, maybe your early 30s, like you just cannot, you can never be this selfish again. It's gone. That time is gone. Yeah, so I really recommend your 20s just being all about personal growth and personal goals and kind of just doing whatever makes you actually happy and sparks joy in your life, because then you will be a fully actualized adult going into your 30s and you will have no regrets. You won't be like, oh, I wish I did this in my 20s. Actually, I never gave that a go. Maybe I shouldn't be tied down. You'll have all these commitment issues maybe, or just these fears about turning 30. Whereas where I am right now, I'm 29. I did everything I wanted to in my 20s, genuinely. I never looked back and think oh, I wish I partied more. Oh, I wish I did this with my friends more. I feel like I dedicated my 20s to studying, building a career, and hanging out with my friends. And even though I was in a relationship with my now husband, we weren't married, we didn't have children. So it was like, you know, the world was whatever I wanted it to be. And I now am, turning 30 this summer, and I do not fear 30 at all because I have no regrets.
I agree. 20s for personal growth for the win. But also it really is the perfect decade to really make mistakes. And honestly, in therapy, we reframe that. We don't even call them mistakes. They're lessons, and they're things that you can take from and learn. So don't be afraid to make them, because the 20s is where it's at, where you should be making them.
Hell yeah. The next one. So we have an anonymous story. I'm just, if I have to address her, I'll just say C. So we had a beautiful birth story sent over to us from someone we love dearly. Basically, it was her birth story of her first child. So it was during COVID. And so, due to restrictions, her partner was unable to go in for any appointments, any ultrasounds, nothing if she went through the traditional hospital medicine route. So she sought out alternative healthcare, basically through midwifery center with a birth center built into their house. So you can go to this, home birth center, be seen by midwives, stitched if you need to. You can deliver there, you spend the night, they feed you, they really look after you guys holistically as a family, partner, mom, and baby. And she just described a beautiful experience. It ended up being everything she did want it to be, thankfully, because she trusted her gut and chose an alternative medicine route instead of just sticking with the hospital, even though they were not making her happy. But she also, so I don't want to embarrass anyone, but basically she was telling about before you go into labor, this is really, really common. You get like severe diarrhea. Now, like a lot of people will describe this, and I have looked into it because I'm like, there must be a scientific explanation. Because most doctors would be like, oh, yeah, that just means like you're about to give birth in the next 24 to 48 hours. We don't really know why. So I was doing some research, and actually, they assume, this isn't proven, but people assume that it's because when you're pregnant, your progesterone is so high. So, like, even if you exercise every day, drink tons of water, and eat fruit all day, every day, just because you are pregnant, your bowels will slow. That's a fact. Progesterone will slow your bowels. I'm not saying you'll be constipated, but they will, by definition, be slower than normal when you're pregnant. So, your progesterone is so high. So, the assumption is that when you're about to go into labor, your progesterone starts to plummet, and it plummets so much so that your bowels come to life and you actually just like cannot stop it. So a lot of like second, third time moms, they're like, oh yeah, I have diarrhea, like I know I'm going to go into labor in the next day or two. And like first time moms come in because they think they're sick, like they have no fever, no blood in their stool, nothing, they're completely fine, but they're like, oh my God, I have like crazy diarrhea. And you're like, yeah, are you 40 weeks? Like, are you coming up to your due date? You're probably going to go into labor. So this person described that as well, and like the kind of fear around that, and being like, I'm sorry, like I'm gross, I can't stop going. But then when she finally felt like everything was out of her system, she can, let the midwife examine her, and she was already 7 centimeters, and well on her way, and ended up having a beautiful natural birth, and everything went really, really well. And it was just really nice to hear her birth story and how different it is to a lot of other people's experiences. She used a birthing stool, which I've only known one other person to use a birthing stool. They're common outside of North America, I would say, but people who have used them really swear by them. It just gives your body a completely different position, because laying on your back is actually not the natural birthing position. Your pelvis is not at its maximum outlet there. People do that because it's what they see on TV. It's what the doctors tell you to do. So you're sit and you're safe. And it's because if you have an epidural, you can't move around. But really, if you don't have pain relief and you can feel your legs and you're able to move, we definitely encourage you to move around, get on all fours, get in a squatting position, because that is where your pelvis is most open. So this person used a birthing stool, had a very positive experience. So we just kind of wanted to shout her out. And thank you so much for sharing that personal story with us. It means a lot. I love to learn about people's birth stories. I love drawing inspiration. And to a mom, your birth story is really everything. It's so important because it's like the day you become a whole new person, like you push past these boundaries you never thought you'd be able to push past. You're in a new kind of pain, but also a new kind of euphoria. And so it's like, I know a lot of people listen to a birth story and they're like, yeah, 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 shut up. But like, if you've ever given birth or you've witnessed a birth, you understand how completely transformative it is. And it just like, it's true, like caterpillar to butterfly shit. Like, it changes you as a person. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your birth story with us.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And we love you. So those were our Q&As. And we thank all of you that we mentioned. And if anyone was on the verge of mentioning something or you were nervous, we're definitely going to have a few more. Please never feel nervous. And obviously, if you want it to be anonymous, absolutely, we respect privacy here. So
Yeah.
thank you so much again. Bridget has some trending topics she'd like to discuss. Go ahead, Bridget.
Yeah, so just real quick before we close out, Mexico has elected their first female president, Claudia Sheinbaum, who ran against another female. It was female versus female, and President
Yay.
Sheinbaum is left wing politics and will serve for 6 years starting in October 2024. So just want to say congratulations, President Sheinbaum. And the next quick topic is male birth control. So a male contraceptive gel just completed its phase 2 clinical trials. The gel contains testosterone and a synthetic hormone called nesterone. So men just rub it onto their shoulders daily to reduce their sperm count, and it makes conception very difficult and hopefully nearly impossible. Side effects reported were just some upper back acne and potentially weight gain, but nothing proven yet. And in one survey, 75% of cis men said they would take a form of birth control. So just wanted to shout that out.
Maybe you'll know because you're a doctor. I'm shocked that why rub it on your shoulders, not closer to their area.
Actually have no idea. So hormonal preparations being rubbed into anywhere on your skin is normally effective. So if you do like hormone replacement therapy for low libido or anything like that, menopause symptoms, you can rub it anywhere. I don't know why specifically they said shoulders though. I actually couldn't tell you.
Hmm. Yeah, because I mean, if it ends up coming out and they say you could put it anywhere, I'd put it on my arms before I put it on my shoulders as a man. Treat it like
Yeah, I'm
lotion.
not really sure because when you rub something on your skin, it is systemically absorbed. So don't ever
Mm,
think that like, oh, I'm just rubbing a topical. Like it still absorbs systemically. So just be cautious. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure specifically why they wrote shoulders. I don't know if it has to do with like muscle bulk. Maybe they want something with the
Mm,
muscle like helping to absorb it, and your shoulders naturally have more muscle than like your forearms. Not sure, but it said shoulders, so interesting.
interesting. Well, I'm excited for that, and also congrats to the first female president. That's exciting.
Hmm.
So those are great. I guess current news updates going out there in the world.
Hmm.
All right. I did want to, we want to let you know coming next season, we're going to have the long awaited Jer Bear have a little bit of segments here and there. We have decided to call it Tough Love with Jer Bear. She's going to be America's mother. And she's just going to come. We're going to ask her questions, is how it's going to be. And we'll even do some where you guys write in questions and then we ask those. And we'll get what she says straight out. We're going to quote her exactly in all her glory, and then we're just going to regurgitate it to you. What's funny about this is we did already let her know, and she, I don't think she did this to you, Bridget. It was definitely a private text to me. I don't know, thought that meant she was actually coming on the show, which obviously, yes, we will have eventually. But so she started like gearing up and getting really serious, and I felt kind of bad because like that's not exactly what was going on. And she was like, oh, I have the mic that Annie dropped off. I'm just give me the segment. I need to know. I need to read it. And I'm like, Mom, we got to back it up a few steps. We're going to ask you the questions. Don't worry. But she was like gung ho. She was like ready to take over. She's going to make this her show.
Please, nobody be offended by anything she says. Just be aware she is a woman in her 60s.
Yes.
She's a full boomer,
Mm-hmm.
and anything she says may not be the opinions of ours. However, I can promise you what she says is funny.
Oh, it is. It is. Just think of like that, older Italian uncle you have with his
Yeah.
opinions. No, you'll love her. And you know what? Even though sometimes her delivery could use a lot of work as a therapist, a little bit more gentler, I will say some of her advice is actually really sound. So, and then, like Bridget said, some of it you could just toss out, and we totally understand that too. Like, I would say if you guys end up asking her any questions like business related, totally sound, smart businesswoman, owns her own funeral home, smart lady. And totally, I would totally trust that advice for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, all right, though. So that is our last episode of season one. Having you guys on this journey has been amazing. Seriously, just behind the scenes, watching you guys interact with us more than I really thought. Seriously, I really didn't think anybody would message us or like our stuff, share our stuff, or subscribe or follow. So from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate all of you. Please share, like, subscribe. All of our handles, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, is all Psychotic PY Podcast. And we will come back for season 2. I think we're going to go on a 2-week hiatus. I do think Bridget, just give Bridget, the pregnant mama, a 2-week break. Let her enjoy it. She's gearing up to go into her last trimester. But 2 weeks, I swear, we'll be here in a blink of an eye. You'll see us back again, better than ever, with some tough love from Jer Bear. So we'll make the 2-week 2-week wait worth it. I promise.
Yes, thank you guys so much for joining us this season. It has meant everything to us. Please like and subscribe, and please let us know what you want more of, what you want less of, and help us make this podcast more for you and make it your own.
Absolutely. So with that, we love you all. See you next season.
Bye.
Bye.